afternoon. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is Times Now Live and I am Hina Gambhir. Viewers, US President Donald Trump has signed a proclamation introducing a steep $100,000 fee for companies sponsoring H-1B visas. The H-1B program, which allows foreign professionals to work in specialized roles across sectors like technology, engineering and healthcare, has long been a pathway for highly skilled talent, especially from India, to contribute to the American economy. But this new policy could change that dramatically. The Trump administration has defended the fee hike, calling it necessary, a very important step to curb what it describes as widespread abuse of the system. According to the White House, the original intent of the H-1B program was to fill gaps in areas where domestic expertise is lacking, not to replace American workers. The message is clear. Only the most skilled, truly specialized professionals will now be allowed in, and at a much higher cost to their employers. Major firms like Amazon, Microsoft and India's Tata Consultancy Services, all of which heavily rely on H-1B talent, may now be forced to rethink their hiring strategies. And this has caused a lot of panic and anxiety among the H-1B visa holders in America. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, in fact, has said that only valuable people will be welcome in America going forward. Listen in to what the U.S. President had to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most abused visa systems in our current immigration system has been the H-1B non-immigrant visa program. This is supposed to allow highly skilled laborers who work in fields that Americans don't work in to come into the United States of America. What this proclamation will do is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000. This will ensure that the people they're bringing in are actually very highly skilled and that they're not replaceable by American workers. So it'll protect American workers, but ensure that companies have a pathway to hire truly extraordinary people and bring them to the United States to work.
We need workers. We need workers. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just non-economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land. Train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here, $100,000 a year for H-1B visas, and all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it. They really love it. They need it.
Now, viewers, this new $100,000 fee on H-1B visa sponsorship is set to make it significantly more expensive for American tech companies to hire foreign professionals. As a result, many firms are going to be under tremendous pressure to increase hiring of American workers locally. However, finding enough skilled talent domestically is already a big challenge for the industry. This shift is expected to push companies to pay higher wages to attract as well as retain qualified American employees, in fact, potentially raising cost across the sector. Let's now tell you a little bit about how this is going to impact India specifically. Now, this is expected to hit Indian workers in the US. US, in fact, takes a lot of Indians as far as H-1B visa program is concerned. Indians form, in fact, majority of H-1B visa holders in America. Indians, in fact, made up 71% of H-1B applications in recent years. It's difficult for entry-level professionals now to live in the US. There's going to be financial difficulty for new graduates from US universities. In fact, over 65% of Indian H-1B visa holders are in the IT sector. And this could also now mean fewer job prospects for new graduates in America. Listen in to these reactions from former Indian diplomats.
It's an atrocity and unnecessary. And you said that it will hit Indians. Yes, it will hit Indians, but it will also hit American economy. Because the young Indians are providing a good part of the brain power required to take American economy forward, and he is sort of, what shall I say, keen on scoring a self-goal.
I think it is in keeping with his various statements that he has been making ever since, especially to please his MAGA constituency, who basically is trying to extract as much money as he can from the industry, even if it is at the expense of the United States, eventually, and also to make it difficult by giving them gold card at $2 million to a corporate, and then asking them to pay $100,000 for each H-1B visa that they want. And as you know, India is the largest user of that visa, so it will directly impact on us. It might even enable various companies to eventually, instead of getting people to the United States, work online, which has also been going on significantly.
Now, reactions, in fact, on this story have been pouring in from all across. Former Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant has slammed the move, calling the steep new visa fee a serious threat to American innovation. He warned that by making it harder and costlier for global talent to enter the US, the country risks choking its own tech-driven growth. He called the policy short-sighted, adding that while it may hurt US companies in the short term, it could prove to be a long-term victory for India. He said America's loss will eventually be India's gain. And amidst all of this, we got a reaction from Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well, who gave a message of the importance of being self-reliant. Listen in.
हम दूसरों पर आश्रित रहेंगे तो हमारा आत्मसम्मान भी चोटिल होगा। देश के विकास के संकल्प को हम दूसरों की निर्भरता पर नहीं छोड़ सकते। हम भावी पीढ़ी के भविष्य को दांव पर नहीं लगा सकते। और इसलिए भाइयों बहनों, આપણે ત્યાં ગુજરાતીમાં કહે કે ભાઈ 100 દુઃખોની એક દવા। 100 दुखों की एक ही दवाई है और वो है आत्मनिर्भर भारत। और अब भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनकर दुनिया के सामने मजबूती के साथ खड़ा होना ही होगा।
And to discuss it, I'm joined by Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, Richard Painter, Law Professor at the University of Minnesota and former Chief White House Ethics Lawyer for President George W. Bush. We also have with us Kanishk Agarwal, CTO, Judge Group India. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Times Now. Sushant Sareen, I want to begin with you. Is America clearly telling skilled Indian, skilled foreign workforce that we don't need you anymore?
Well, I don't know what the Americans are trying to tell anybody else. What they're trying to do is get the job market for their own people. But if they had the people, then this, you would not need to take the H-1B route. It is not as though the American companies were, doing talent hunting outside the United States because they had, they had some inimical attitude towards Americans. They were doing it because they were getting the best of talent from around the world. That is not to say that there was not any misuse of the H-1B visa. Of course, whenever you have a system, there will be some people who will misuse it. But the kind of policies that the Trump administration is following right now is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Rather than bringing in necessary reforms to try and, prevent the misuse, they are taking steps which are only going to end up penalizing their own companies, which is what a $100,000 fee does to their own companies. So yes, maybe you will get the stratospheric talent coming, if at all. And of course, to some extent, it does create some problems for some of the Indians who were chasing the American dream. But I think what is important, Nehna, from my point of view is that, why the hell should we be chasing the American dream? Why should we not be creating an Indian dream? So I would say that I would agree with anybody who says that, look, this can be a gain for India. But this can only be a gain for India if the government was to wake up to, reforming the policy sector in a way that Indian talent can flourish in India. Indian companies are incentivized to innovate and to stop this technology trading which they are doing and come up with more innovative models, come up, better systems in place out here. What we are doing right now is, we borrow some technology, then do something and then, flog it around. So you use that same talent which goes to the United States, you can use it here and you can do your own thing. But, people will need to pull up their socks and rise up to the occasion. Unfortunately, we'll hear a lot of rhetoric, but when it comes to the policy sphere, not enough is done. Or if at all something is done, there is this entire bureaucratic establishment which will ensure that it will get done.
Okay, so interesting. And, in fact, this is the biggest talking point today all over social media. Whoever you're speaking with, that's the only thing people are discussing. Many clearly see this as a golden opportunity for India, because many on social media are also saying that, India of 2005, when this was a lucrative program, this H-1B visa, when everyone had this American dream, is very different from this India of 2025. And like you correctly said, Sushant Sareen, of course, if we do want to attract that talent here in India, to make India the economic powerhouse, we will have to tweak our policies, make them better for sure. But Richard Painter, I want to ask you, now these professionals who went to America under the H-1B visa program have actually helped America become what it is right now, an economic powerhouse. So don't you think this, in fact, is a self-goal? Trump may be wanting to make America great again, but perhaps he needs to first change his advisors, because if this is going to be the route, it might not really yield him the result that he's looking for.
Indeed, correct. The United States is in grave danger of losing our advantage in high technology. And we see the rapid growth of the high technology sector in communist China. And we could very well be surpassed by the Chinese if we don't focus on bringing to the United States the talent we need. And many of the very talented people who have contributed to the growth of high tech in the United States are from India. These are two of the world's largest democracies, India and the United States. Indian immigrants have done an enormous amount to help grow our economy, not only in high tech, but in medicine and many other fields. And this is a very, very problematic step for the Trump administration to shut off immigration of highly talented people to the United States. If the high-tech companies want to hire qualified people, they may have to move their entire operation to India, which means destroying American jobs for the people here who could very well be working with the talented people that have been brought in from India and around the world under this visa program. So I think that both of our countries need to work together. We have a strong, very strong economy in the United States that President Trump inherited, but he's at risk of destroying it, not only through his immigration policies, but his tariff policies. And I don't know that India is going to be able to stand up to China and other authoritarian regimes also without working with the United States. We need these two countries working together as democracies, free market economies. And this action by the Trump administration goes in exactly the wrong direction, and once again really could destroy.
Well, it is one of the many things that are going in the wrong direction, that are going to adversely impact the relationship between both the countries. I want to go across to Kanishk Agrawal as well. Kanishk Agrawal, now maybe Trump administration thinks that this is what America needs, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this timeline that has been given. 24 hours, and that was followed by advisories by companies like Microsoft, etc., to all their employees who are H-1B visa holders. I mean, isn't it cruel the way it is being done?
Definitely, it's very cruel. I believe the policy may serve more as a symbolic gesture from Trump to demonstrate that there is a toughness on immigration. But from a timeline perspective, I think it's negatively impact. So economic ripple effects are expected because the higher the cost, companies may not be able to manage the operations that quickly. And the reliance on H-1B is definitely more, as in, talking about Microsoft, Amazon, and other large corporations. They have more than 100,000 plus H-1Bs in their companies where they're doing innovation and operations and many things. So I'm not sure about the durability of this policy because we have seen the immigration's laws shift from administration to administration. So I think the employers will wait and watch because I think there will be a pushback from the industry and the courts to call back this policy.
Do we have any ballpark figure as to the kind of impact we are looking at if it is implemented in the current form?
So, see, when it comes to the niche technologies, which is artificial intelligence and neuromorphic computing chips and all of that, right? A lot of Indian talent is already there. And I think we compute around 70% of Indian talent when it comes to H-1Bs. The impact can be in billions of dollars because it will push America down in terms of the innovation throughput that they would like to have when they are trying to compete against the likes of China. So definitely advantage to India and China now because I think India will have better pipeline of talent available to them.
Okay. So Shant Sareen, next week we are getting to know Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is also likely to visit America. Of course, the focus is going to be the trade deal. But do you think this can also be, considered, or maybe do you expect the government to take this up with the Trump administration?
No, not really, because look, at the end of the day, a visa policy is a government's domestic policy, right? To some extent, it affects foreigners, but I can't tell Americans on what they should do with their visa policy. If they would raise that issue, maybe, yes, I can, answer them back and maybe even advise them that what they're doing is something rather silly. And I'll tell you why, because I think Mr. Painter talks about it. And let me just add to something which he's saying. The kind of conditions that have been created over the last 6-8 months in the US has caused a lot of people to rethink their positions in the US. So what has now started happening is that the Chinese have grabbed this opportunity. They have started attracting fabulous talent from the US, giving fabulous salaries in China. You name it, they are offering it to them. There are people of Chinese origin and non-Chinese origin who are making a beeline for China. Now, if the Indians were to come back and, we will hear a lot of statements from all kinds of politicians, retired and serving bureaucrats, saying all kinds of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, even when we bring back our people, where are we going to place them? So we'll say, okay, fine, you go to a university. But if the university is going to be run like it's in the 17th century, then what is the point of getting that guy back? Because these guys are in the 21st century and looking at the 22nd. The universities in India in the 20th century and going back to the 17th century. It cannot work like that. So you need to undertake those necessary reforms so that if you are attracting the talent back to India, to create conditions that they come back to India, maybe rather than learning something from the US, we should learn something from China, even though it's an adversary. And yes, if the opportunity presents itself, maybe we can tell the Americans that, you're cutting your nose to spite our face or everybody else's face. And it really doesn't make any sense what you're trying to do.
Well, when you say that perhaps we should learn from China, even though it's an adversary, I would say that, it's better to have, wise enemies, trust on wise enemies, listen to wise enemies than having foolish friends. But Sushant Sareen, why I specifically asked you that question about a Union Minister visiting America for the trade talks and if this can be taken up or not was because here in India, we are seeing politics also happening around it. Now, we have Rahul Gandhi, whose old post has been refurbished literally to target the Prime Minister. And this is also being put on the Prime Minister now. He says that, I repeat, India has a weak Prime Minister, as if it's the fallout of India's foreign policy. How will you like to respond?
Yes, look, I think it's a foolish statement by the leader of opposition. And for him to regurgitate that statement is compounding the foolishness. The simple fact of the matter is that this is a decision made by an American government which was going to take certain measures on the issue of immigration, which had actually in many ways gone out of control. So I don't blame the Trump administration from trying to address some of the problems that had crept in. Otherwise, they would have started ending up like Europe. To some extent, they were already behaving like Europe, given the kind of mass illegal immigration that had taken place. But having said that, you can't blame the Prime Minister of India and say that, listen, it's your weak policies why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing in his own country, when Donald Trump and the people around him had already made up their mind what they're going to do about this.
Okay.
But Indian politics is like that. You just say whatever you want to say, you shoot and scoot. It doesn't matter whether it's sensible or it's not sensible. And clearly this is not a sensible take.
Okay. Richard Painter, one last question before we wind up this discussion. Do you think perhaps in the near future good sense can prevail, or do you think now this is literally cast in stone?
None of this makes any sense. The tariff policy doesn't make any sense. Getting into a diplomatic row with India, the largest democracy in the world, doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense what they're doing now. And President Trump talks about our great universities. He knows full well that our universities are in crisis, and indeed his administration has gone after our American universities for mismanagement. We're not graduating the talent we need to from our universities. The tuition is extremely high, which is why wages for Americans have to be high. Our students are deeply, deeply in debt because of the corrupt faculty governance system in our universities, the overpaid administrators. The Trump administration knows this, so while they're going after the American universities for mismanagement in the Department of Education, they're then turning around and saying that we have the talent which we do not have because of our supposedly great universities. We have people from India who come to our country who have been trained, who have the expertise, who don't have the massive student debt that Americans have. And we need those people here. And if we can't get them here, a lot of high-tech companies are just going to move to India or, as I say, worse yet for us, move to China. And then the United States will lose its position in high-tech to the Chinese. And then we're in big trouble.
All right. I'm completely out of time, but thank you very much, all of you gentlemen, for joining us here on this discussion. Of course, this is going to be our top focus ahead as well. For now, slipping into another short break. More updates on the other side.